Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I am super excited to be here at Elevate, the Ultimate Content Summit. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the new rules of content strategy. So I'm going to pull up my deck here. While I am doing that, I want you to think, just make sure we've got this settled here. All right. So I want to ask you a quick question, and you can shout it out. If you're at home with your dog or your roommate, you can pop it into the chat and we'll look later. But just quickly off the top of your head, what is the best piece of playground equipment? It could be the slides, it could be the merry-go-round, it could be the swings. What is the best piece of playground equipment? Now, when I ask this question in person, I always get somebody who's kind of sarcastically saying the park bench, right? Not even the playground. Now, you may be wondering, why am I asking you about a playground when we're here to talk about content strategy? We're going to get there, I promise. But for now, let's pretend that you went down the slide, you fell off, hit your head, and we're now in a place where we're talking about the linear funnel. I know it was a rough slide, but I'm going to bring it back around, I promise. So at its core, the linear funnel is 3 phases: awareness, consideration, and decision. And what a lot of marketers do is they whip out their editorial calendar and they say, I'm going to do 2 pieces of content per phase. That's 6 pieces of content published once per month. I now have 6 months of content strategy. Now, of course, if you've done content strategy before, you're saying that's not at all how it works. It's much more complicated. And you are correct. These are the Google search results for the linear funnel. And we got some weird stuff going on. We got like 5 phases. We got it turned on its side. Like, clearly we need something new. And so we have kind of evolved to this looping decision journey. And at its core, it's 4 phases: awareness, consideration, purchase, and then some sort of upsell, cross-sell, or retention phase that for some reason kind of just drops you back into the same awareness funnel. It's a little weird, but okay, cool. We're going to add 2 additional pieces of content. That's 8 pieces of content, still published once per month. I now have 8 months of content strategy. And of course, as you're well aware, that's not at all how it works. It's much more complicated than that. And again, you are correct. Google search results for the looping decision journey. And I got to tell you, the most terrifying one on this is in the bottom right screen for me. And it's the Mobius, right? How many of you have been stuck in the infinite loop of sales and marketing content? It's terrifying. So I decided that we needed a new model. And I got very excited because I thought I had solved it. And it's this piece of equipment. And in the US, we call this a jungle gym. And I thought, great, this is the perfect metaphor because it allows you to kind of go up and down and you can kind of go every which way. But the real problem with this is that there's still only one objective, and that's to get to the top of the jungle gym. It's still me as a marketer forcing you as an audience to take the journey that I want you to take. Which brings us back to the playground. What's the right way to play on the playground? Is it to go slides and then swing and then merry-go-round? Is it to skip the swings altogether? And what about the people sitting on the park bench? Are they using the playground the wrong way? Of course not. And so as marketers, we need to design our content like a playground. We want to treat the buyer's journey as a playground where people can enter and exit as they desire, they can go in any order, and they can engage with content the wrong way. Now, what do I mean by engaging with content the wrong way? Let's take pricing as an example. So pricing is traditionally considered a bottom of funnel or purchase level decision or piece of content that you want to share. But when my boss came to me and said, Ashely, we're going to buy this tool. How much budget should I ask for? I have no idea. So I start Googling around, trying to find some pricing. I find the big players in the space and I say, hey, I'm looking to make this purchase. I need to ask for some budget. How much does it cost roughly for this number of licenses and this SLA? And they all came back to me, oh, you need to watch this demo. You need to download this white paper. No, I don't even have budget yet. You're trying to put me through this linear funnel and I don't even have budget. So I finally get budget and I come back and I say, great, I'm interested. I know I have this problem. I know a tool like yours can solve it. Please sell me your tool. So I said, drop me all the way down to the bottom of the funnel now. And still they're like, well, let me explain to you why this is a problem. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Guys, I know it's a problem. Sell me your tool to solve it. So again, as we think about this journey, we have to meet our audience where they are. So how do we do that? If we're not going to map our content to the linear funnel, how are we going to map it? So I want to introduce this narrative framework based on content depths. And our first depth is conceptual. So it's theoretical and philosophical in nature, and it focuses on the what and the why of the idea. This is helping your audience think about and frame up the problem space. Next is strategic. So here we want to focus on the process, tools, and key knowledge components that must be included to make the conceptual ideas reality. Here, we're helping our audience frame up the solution space and think about the criteria they need to evaluate a solution. We want to equip them to do their own research. And finally, tactical. So this is the prescriptive, step-by-step instructions. It's the nitty-gritty things they need to be doing daily, weekly, monthly to achieve the strategic and conceptual ideas. Now you'll notice nowhere in there did I specifically say the problem you solve with the product or service that you sell. This is in service of your audience. Next, we need to think holistically about distribution. So think about your asset types. It could be written, visual, audio. It could be long form or short form. It could be live. It could be recorded. Now, what often happens, particularly in larger companies, they have teams for each asset type. So if you're the blog team, everything is a long form blog. If you're the video team, everything is a recorded, animated, fancy video. But as a marketer, you have to think holistically about the different asset types. You also want to think holistically about the channel and platform. So this is your mix of paid, owned, and earned channels, and it can be a place to host content and a place to share content. And finally, metrics. So reach versus engagement versus CTR. And I want to make this clear. All assets and all channels do not need to accomplish all things at all times. So if you're trying to optimize for reach, you're probably not going to also be able to optimize for engagement. And particularly on social, if you're optimizing for engagement in the feed, it's likely that your CTR will not be as strong because you're asking people to stay where they are. So make sure that you're matching the right metric to the right channel and the right asset type. So what does this look like in the real world? Once you've done this, you can fill out a table like this, where you've got all of your narratives mapped, the depths, asset type, and their outlet. So I love this example. In my bio, I say I'm a fitness fiend. Now, if we think about this, most people would answer the question, what does it mean to be healthy and fit? It's some combination of diet and exercise. But you're going to answer that question very differently if you're Runner's World versus Muscle and Fitness versus Yoga Journal. So my fitness fiend choice is bodybuilding. So let's answer this question as if we're Muscle and Fitness magazine. So at the conceptual level, you would say you're healthy and fit if you have big, strong muscles and a high protein diet. At the strategic level, you might talk about the value of compound lifts or having good form when you're lifting. And you might talk about the differences between fast digesting and slow digesting protein. And at the tactical level, this is your 10 tips to build bigger biceps or 5 chicken dinner recipes to try this week. So how does that apply in B2B marketing? Well, let's take a look at some examples. First, we want to use this tactic of content pairing. And so Canva has done an excellent job of this. They've used a mix of strategic and tactical level content for their brochure design. So let's say you Google them. They have some ads, and then they also own the #1 spot in the search engine results page. Once you click in, you get a mix of information kind of at the strategic level, talking about why you need brochures, what they can help you do, and then at the tactical level, some tips to make really great brochures. When you click in, it takes you directly into the product with some guided tactical steps, templates, and design tips. And the great thing about this is you can explore their product without ever having to actually sign up for an account. Now, once you do decide, hey, I want to download this or I want to save this, at that point, they ask you to log in or create a free account. We also use this tactic at Atlassian to pair tactical level content, but across different platforms and different asset types. So here we have one of our product managers or our engineers sharing a demo of the latest features. And we publish that on YouTube as a short form video. And then we pair that with an Ask Me Anything thread in our community. Now, the great thing about this is it's real people. It's not actors, it's not voiceovers. It's the person who actually spent time working and building this feature. And so you get an opportunity to make that human connection and ask any questions of the person who's actually capable of answering it. We've also used this on our Agile Coach series. So here we pair a mix of conceptual, strategic, and tactical level content, and we also pair different asset types and different channels. So we have a long form article generally describing Agile ways of working. Then we include a short form video directly in the article. We cross-link those, so whether you find us on YouTube or you find us in the article, you have the ability to choose to read or watch. And then as you go through, you start to understand, okay, here's why Agile matters. Here's some of the different practices that you can use for Agile. And oh, by the way, if you're looking for a tool to help you practice Agile, here's a tutorial with Jira. I also used this tactic when I worked at Duarte, which is a presentation design and training firm. And so we talked about strategically why you want to use humor in a presentation. We published that as a LinkedIn article, and then we paired it with tactical level case studies of real people using different types of humor. And again, we cross-linked them. So whether you landed on the case studies first or you landed on the article, you can move up or down in your depth to understand how to use humor and different examples. You can also use republishing content. So there's a couple of ways to do this. You can just use LinkedIn or DZone or syndication partners. And one way to do it is to pair the problem and solution. So you frame up the problem on one site, and then you link to a piece that details the solution on another site. So editors at the Muse did this. They were talking about how to make sure that your resume is the perfect fit. And they framed up the problem on LinkedIn as an article talking about throwing away the resume of someone who ended up being the perfect candidate. And then they linked to a piece on the Muse talking about how to tailor your resume. You can do this with case studies and research. So there's a couple ways to do this. One is to frame up the problem, what it is and why it matters on a site, and then link to the solution. Or you could do talking about kind of a summary of the research or the case study and then link over to the details to read it in depth. So we used this tactic with our global head of balance and belonging to talk about the state of diversity in tech. She wrote a long LinkedIn article on her own personal profile talking about why we ran the study and what the results showed. And then we linked over to how we're trying to implement the results of that study in our own hiring and retention guidelines. And finally, you can just straight up republish existing content. So just take that long form content, republish it as it exists. So we've used this tactic successfully at Atlassian by publishing on DZone. So I handle Agile and DevOps topics, which is focused on developers. And so DZone is a great place for us to republish. And you'll notice there in the yellow box, we've marked it as the canonical link so that we get a nice quality backlink to the original content. And so we say it's republished on DZone with permission from Atlassian. And so that ensures that the Atlassian piece of content gets canonical, while the DZone piece of content is helping us reach a new audience. The Muse has also done this extensively. They have a number of syndication partners. And so I've written a number of articles there on career topics. And then they have specific publishing partners like Mashable, Time, and Forbes. And the great thing here is you get multiple backlinks, you get multiple high authority sites. It gives the author and the original publisher multiple ways to publish the article and reach new audiences. Now, it's not just long form content that's changed. Social has changed as well. So this is a company called Flair. It's a cloud access security broker. And prior to getting acquired by Oracle, we went to reInvent, which is a massive conference for a lot of different developers and security professionals. And so what a lot of companies do when they go to an in-person event is they just shout, visit us at booth 123, visit us at booth 123. But half the audience isn't even at the event. And so we decided to take an integrated approach. And we integrated our booth messaging and our booth giveaway. And so we locked an Amazon tap in a little case, and we put a bowl of what looked like identical keys next to it. And if you drew a key and it unlocked the lock, you won the tap. Now, of course, given that there were a lot of security people there, pretty much everyone said, there's not even a working key in the bowl. There's none. You're not giving away anything. And so every time someone won, we took a picture and we asked if we could post it on our company Twitter account. And then if they had Twitter, we asked if we could tag and had them like and share. And so we could, anytime someone came up, we could say, hey, go follow us online and you can see the last time someone won. Now, the other thing that we did is we created an ebook of cautionary tales. And this tied into our booth messaging, it tied into our giveaway, and it was also something that people could see on social. And so instead of just spamming them with, hey, come to our booth, we actually united that message across all of our channels. And then we sent that digital piece as the follow-up email to everyone who we had scanned at the booth. And of course, our open rates and click-through rates were much higher because it all connected. I also want to talk a little bit about LinkedIn. So there's a few interesting things happening here. LinkedIn company pages and organic reach are continuing to decline. So we've had a lot of success asking some personal profiles to post things. And so here we have one of our product managers posting about a launch. And there's a few reasons why this post did well. First, she shares her personal perspective. So she's talking about, I built this, my team was able to ship this, and I'm so proud of them. Next, she @mentioned the company. So here you want to @mention, not use a hashtag. So to prevent spam, LinkedIn basically requires that if a person is going to invite a brand into the conversation, they must @mention them. Next, we used LinkedIn comments. So this is changing a little bit. Sometimes LinkedIn prefers to see an original post. Other times they prefer to have the LinkedIn comments. So definitely test that. But anything that takes you immediately off the site is going to reduce your reach. To increase engagement, we used carousels. So here we basically just created a little slide deck, exported it as a PDF, uploaded it to LinkedIn, and you could click through, and each of those clicks tells the algorithm, hey, people are interacting, show this content more. We also had people swarm the post. So LinkedIn really wants to see first time to engagement, and they like to see likes and comments. So what you can do is you can have your team, instead of going and saying, hey, share the post from the company page, have them react and comment on their colleague's post. And then, of course, the first time to engagement matters. So ask people to do this within the first 2 to 3 hours of someone publishing. We've also gone directly to Twitter. So whenever we've launched things, we have people go and reply from their personal accounts. And as you can see, people say, I really like this trend of PMs directly answering some questions, direct accountability and direct feedback. Is this just you answering, or is this an official thing? And of course, it's an official thing. And we've been able to significantly shift sentiment by engaging human to human. So let me talk a little bit about that, because obviously one-to-one connection is not scalable. So how do we measure this? Most marketers are so concerned about CTR. How many people clicked through? How many people came from this link? CTR, CTR, CTR. But the problem is platforms are greedy and people are lazy. The platforms want to keep you directly on the platform, and people don't want to have to click to get value. And so as a marketer, you need to think holistically about your measurement. So we use a variety of measurements, including video. We look at things like subscriber growth and average watch time. We look at where we're showing up against our competitors in our brand paid search and our advertising. Of course, we've got organic traffic. This is your standard, how many people are actually coming to the website. And then also looking at unpaid social. So follower growth, in-feed engagement, the type and quality of that engagement. So I love this quote from Jay Acunzo. It says, marketing is no longer about grabbing attention. It's all about holding it. Today's best marketers understand marketing isn't about who arrives, it's about who stays. So I want to show one additional example that's quite counterintuitive, and it's from the city of Vienna. So they specifically ran a campaign that said, enjoy Vienna, not #Vienna. They didn't want you to go on social and share a bunch of photos and use their hashtag. Instead, they wanted you to come to the tourist office and pick up an Instamax camera and only take 10 physical photos for the entire vacation. 10 photos. Can you imagine? So instead, they created an entire digital experience that would give you guided tours based on what you enjoy. So if you like hiking, here's all of our best trails. If you like wine and food, here's all of the best restaurants and shops to visit. And then they ran an out-of-home campaign in some of the biggest digital markets in the world saying, enjoy Vienna, not #Vienna. So how do you measure this? So it would be things like how many people actually came and picked up an Instamax camera? Was there an increase in requests for tourist visas? What was the revenue lift or the foot traffic lift from all of the different shops and trails that were listed on the website? So think holistically about your measurement. It's not just about that digital impression or that digital click through. So, what is the ideal customer journey? I get this question a lot. How does this playground method work in the ideal customer journey? Well, it used to be about rushing people to a purchase within as few touch points as possible. But today, the ideal journey is about the most seamless handoff between touch points for your audience. So, the tenets of creating a playground: first, delight your audience. Focus on creating quality content that engages the audience at each touch point. Next, build the relationship. The long-term affinity for the brand is much more important than driving a single transactional landing page conversion. And finally, influence at every touch point. So at this point, all content can be considered top of funnel content because it's no longer about rushing people to a purchase. It's about educating and empowering for success. So who's ready to help build the playground? I hope that these tactics have given you something to think about, and I hope that you'll consider using the playground mindset in your content. Thank you so much for joining. And obviously, if you are interested in using Atlassian products to help you on that journey, I would love to tell you how Jira, Trello, and Confluence can help you do that. So I will exit out and just double check the Q&A, but we can also continue the conversation on LinkedIn and Twitter. I'm at Ashely Faus on both of those platforms. So I see I see several people really like swings and slides. That's great. Let me see here. Looks like in the Q&A, we've just got someone who's open to connecting. So if you are interested in connecting, make sure you check that out. Let me just put in I'm at Ashely Faus on LinkedIn and Twitter. I'll just give one more second in case there's any last questions. I am not sure if the presentation will be available for download or on demand. I'll let the conference organizer answer that question. How do I get more clients on LinkedIn? So there's a couple ways to do that. One, make sure that you're creating quality content at least 3 to 4 times per week. 2, go find the ideal customer. So whether that's, if you're doing account-based marketing, that might be people at the company, but comment on their post and not selling them something on the post, but specifically commenting and adding value and adding your perspective. And then third, I would say from a ratio standpoint, 1 out of every 10 posts, tell people what the heck you do and why you do it. So those are my 3 tips for that. Couple more people suggesting for connections on LinkedIn. It says the recording for this masterclass will be accessible in the future. So yes, sounds like you can get the presentation. Next is, how influential is it to collaborate with a regional content creator from another nation for a given product soft launch? I say that really depends on the market. It depends on the product. It depends on the creator. It really depends. So if you're launching something that's regional specific, or you're trying to get into a new market, then it can be very valuable to work with an influencer or work with a launch partner in that market. Particularly for public relations, the communication and media landscape is quite different between, so for example, Atlassian, Australia, India, and the United States. Those markets behave very differently. So we do partner with local PR experts to make sure that our message is being shared in the right way. But it definitely depends on the product market and kind of where you're going into. For someone who is just starting with content creation, say a blog, do you have any tips on how to go about monetizing it? Anything to keep in mind from your end? So if you're looking for a personal blog, there's a couple things. I would suggest pairing it with a social media handle as well. So if this is more of like a lifestyle blog, like you'll see this a lot with baking, you'll see this a lot with clothing or accessories, where someone's got a blog portion that has a lot of pictures, and then they reuse those pictures and share kind of an outfit of the day post on Instagram. If you're a business or an e-commerce site, in that case, you want to make sure that you have really easy ways to buy and a really clean shop. So again, what I see a lot of the time is people will bury the buy now button or something like that in an inline link in the middle of the paragraph. No, you need to make sure that you have shop or buy products somewhere as like a large button or tab in the nav. Let me see here. Okay, 3 most important factors while writing content strategy for B2B SaaS products. In all cases, and this is something, the next question is, how do you get a sense of who the buyers are? Talk to your customers. Talk to the people who are reading. Ask them, what problems are they trying to solve? How are they currently solving them? What solutions have they tried that failed? What solutions have they tried that worked? Why are they looking for new solutions? What other ways is this problem showing up? So I know that was a lot of things. It was more than 3, but the answer is talk to the people who you are trying to reach. It all stems from that. Your messaging, your positioning, your keyword strategy, your channels, all of that stems from who these people are. And I will answer one more here. So someone is asking, have I leveraged my audience to help amplify my content? Yes. So I've done this in 2 ways. One, from a personal standpoint, I do have a couple of folks every so often internally and friends where I'm like, hey, would you mind liking and sharing this on LinkedIn or Twitter? And we have kind of a nice reciprocal thing going there. It's not a formal thing. I'm not in like a pod, but a couple of us where we know it's like, hey, I'm trying to boost this. Will you help me? The other way that we do this is we have a large community of Atlassian champions. And so we ask them occasionally to, amplify things. For example, speaker submissions for our summit that's happening in 2022 open on November 1st. And so we ask our audience to say, hey, let your friends know, tag people, share, promote that speaker submissions are open so we can get quality speakers. So I know we're about at time. I would love to continue this conversation on LinkedIn and Twitter. Someone also asked about getting a link to my site. So there's a couple ways to reach me. I'm at Ashely Faus on Twitter. I'm Ashely Faus on LinkedIn. It should be the first search result if you type in my name. And you can also reach me at consciouslycorporate.com. I post content there occasionally. I post other places where I'm speaking. I don't generally respond to submission forms there, but social media is the best way to reach me. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining this morning. And morning for me, evening potentially for some of you. And I will pass it back to our organizer.